Welcome to High Road 2. This is Mark Stouffer, and I'm going to share some comical content with you that relates to AI and the disruption that's currently happening in my universe, my small universe of working with entrepreneurs, at business accelerators, startups. The disruption is very serious, right? And I'm highly recommending that people that get laid off, that write code or are doing design work, and they're saying, hey, I do the work in a fraction of the time and it's more precise than what it took me months to do, but there's not enough volume to support, the industry, right? It's that pie has shrunk exponentially. So, a designer who says, hey, it took me 8-10 months and I charged client 60,000-80,000. He's got to hold it close to his chest because it's taking weeks to do the work, and he might charge him $5,000 or $10,000. And there's not enough volume to support the competition in our region in that regard. And then I have, somebody that writes code that got laid off and never been laid off in his life and never had to look for work and is working at a restaurant, or was working at a restaurant. He started another startup. Hopefully it does well, but it's questionable if it's going to be sustainable for him to maintain his lifestyle. And that's where I highly recommend that the trades are, the best option right now, as far as I think you're worth your weight in gold if you're an equipment operator, you're electrician, plumber. And Jensen Huang with Nvidia talks about this, and that's what we're going to follow up with after we watch this content now. So enjoy. Let me know what you think.
Looking to upskill for the future?
This new AI can perform all coding jobs in seconds, including blockchain development. While this AI is already outperforming accounting firms. Meanwhile, the new graphic design AI aims to automate graphic design and could minimize the need for...
Relax. Because in a future where AI does most of the work, there'll be one thing that humans will finally get to do all day long. Nothing. So it's time to learn the most essential skill of the future. 5-Star presents Nothing University, with the first ever diploma program in doing nothing. An intensive course covering the most future-ready skills out there.
Well, let me check with the AI and get back to you in a few days.
Super. With our state-of-the-art workshops, campus placements, and guest lectures, the world can finally prepare for the glorious future that awaits us. Eat 5-Star, do nothing.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. There's so much truth to that. It's insane. Honestly, it truly is. How does Elon Musk go into Twitter at the time and tell 1,000 people they can go home? Because they have AI in their back pocket, and there are a few dozen people that know how to use it, I suppose. And so if I look at, we're using accounting AI, we're implementing. I spent a week in San Francisco at an AI user conference, and I went through the workshops throughout the week, and I was just blown away. And we're implementing these things where we don't have to rely on a CFO firm. We don't have to rely on the accountants. We don't have to rely so much on the CPAs. We can do it in-house at a fraction of the cost. And that is scary, right? That's scary. But this is the next content I want to share with you is Jensen Huang's take on what this means and what the direction is in the very near future. So let me know what you think. This is pretty amazing stuff. Enjoy here.
On the workforce point, the press has been so focused on weaving the narrative that AI could potentially lead to mass displacement of labor and mass unemployment. Could you help paint a picture a little bit about what your prediction is for the impact of AI on the job market, but also more specifically on what you see as the potentially new categories of jobs that we're potentially not even thinking about today that could actually come into being?
New jobs will be created. Some jobs will be lost. Every job will be changed. Okay, so let's just break it down. It's always easy to go to one extreme from another, but I always find it helpful when you break the problem down, reason about it, from its first principles. And again, in this framework that I just described, at the lowest layer, as you know, and Jacob, you're deeply integrated into venture investment, and you know what's going on in AI. And you know at the foundational layer, it's because of AI that San Francisco is back. Okay, anybody who lives in San Francisco, you'll know what I'm talking about.
And I want to speak to that. I had many family friends that would, come and visit and go to San Francisco, and they said they'd never go back. And I had somebody that was working in San Francisco, and he had to tell the general contractor, hey, I'm not coming back. They keep stealing my tools, right? They broke his window a couple times, but it wasn't, an environment where it says, it can't cost me money to do this job. And so, San Francisco was a train wreck. And when I went out there for this conference, I was just so impressed, the energy. And this is what he's talking about now, that it's back. And the revenue that's going in, it's the epicenter of the AI revolution that's going on right now. And it's amazing. It's just amazing. So let's hear what he has to say.
Just about everybody evacuated San Francisco. Now it's thriving again. It's all because of AI. And AI creates a new type of job. And the fundamental reason is because it's software development, but done in a different way. We've changed every layer of the technology as a result of AI. What used to be human-coded software running on CPUs are now machine learning-generated software running on GPUs. And so every single layer, the tooling of it, the compilers of it, the methodology of it, the way you collect data, curate data, use AI to guardrails, use AI to teach, use AI to keep the AI safe. All of that technology is being invented right now, and it creates tons of jobs. At the next layer, this is where the giant opportunity is. Remember, I just said that we're going to create a new type of factory, and this factory has electricity come in, and it generates tokens out. A 1 gigawatt factory, let me just put it, 1 gigawatt factory, and we're in the horizon building something like 7, 8, 10 gigawatts of AI factories. 1 gigawatt factory is $60 billion. $60 billion for 1 gigawatt. 100 megawatt factory is pretty commodity now, it's pretty commonplace, and so you just divide that by 10. But $60 billion is the annual, one factory is the annual revenues of Boeing. And to build it, you have to finance it, creates a lot of jobs. You have to build out the site, the shell, creates a bunch of jobs, construction. You got carpenters, you got steel workers, you got masons. You got to build out that factory. $60 billion factory. This thing is gigantic. You have to have, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, plumbers, and then after that, all the low voltage stuff, all the IT and the networking. After that, operations. That entire cycle is about 3 years. A whole bunch of new trade jobs have to be created. These trade jobs, in the last computer industry, the last computing platform shift, the number one critical path for most companies' growth is software engineers. This next layer, AI factories, the number one is going to be trades, the trade craft. And I think this is terrific. Our country needs to acknowledge that tradecraft is respectable work, and it's critical work, and it's necessary to build our country. And so,
yeah, I want to speak to that. I mean, honestly, he says 3 years, 5 years, and what I see is that, robotics is going to take over. Okay, I'm talking to somebody in my town at a coffee shop who's here, and presenting to the agricultural community of businesses here in Monterey County, California, that, the automation to seed the field, prepare the field, seed the field, maintain the field, harvest the field, package the harvest, put it on an autonomous vehicle, cold storage plant, and then deliver it all over the world, right? Without the need of human labor, or that dramatically, significantly reduce the need for human labor. Now, what does that labor force do? I would propose that if they are in vocational training, that they move into the trades, because the demand is supply and demand. The demand is so incredibly high right now, as he's talking about here, to build out the infrastructure I grew up in Silicon Valley, okay, when it was all orchard back in the day, and then Silicon Valley came, on the horizon, and they needed structures and they needed infrastructure to build out, these manufacturing plants, these corporate offices, and it was game on. It seemed like it was overnight. So I'm telling people, prepare for, see it for what it is, be aware of it, and immerse yourself in it. But I'd say anybody that's loitering, anybody that is, there's 7-8 million men in their prime not working, and they're desperately needed, right, to learn a vocation. You don't have to be good in school. You just have to show up. That was told. My counselor told me, he said, Mark, school's not for everybody. You're going to be in and out of the system. You're in trouble, and you don't have any parental guidance, and but I can get you into a trade school. And I passed that trade school hundreds of times, San Jose, California, and I passed 100. I didn't even know what it was. And he introduced me to it. He said, you know what, if you just show up and try and you get a C average, I can get you into that trade school, and it's free. Adults pay money to go there, but I can get you in there for free. I sent a friend off to, after I graduated, I did really well, and I was, had my act together, and then we got a friend of mine a grant to go to a school, and he took that grant. It paid for housing, food, and everything, because it is right now supply and demand. Anybody, it's respectable work. I worked with the Army Corps of Engineers. I was doing huge jobs after the earthquake, and we were rebuilding the cities after the Loma Prieta earthquake, '89, and I worked 32 hours straight walking into my first house, and I was sought after, and I enjoyed the work. And so I propose to people that it's a life-changing experience when you're needed and your trade is in demand, and you work with a team. It's like I put my kids in sports. The coach like the manager, the boss, the teammates, the coworkers, people in the stands are the customers. You learn life lessons, and that is what gives you the foundation to have the resiliency to get the job done. Now, I'll tell you, in the trades, I was on a lot of big jobs as a rookie, and when I got cleaned up and sober, I got into sports, I got into nutrition, I got into just spending my time with healthy people. Sometimes you got to separate yourself from the crab bucket syndrome in your life, your family and your friends that aren't encouraging you to just stretch yourself and stretch yourselves outside of your comfort zone. Comfort zones are dangerous, right? I was loitering in front of a 7-Eleven, throughout my youth, and bumming quarters to play video games, and that's what's happening to our youth today. They spend too much time on the screen, right? But there's an opportunity here, right? And it's not going to last very long, because robots are going to take over. Robots are going to come in, and everything's going to be a commodity, right? And they're going to look and scan. They'll be downloaded the plans for whatever the project is, and there's 4 costs. There's time cost, material cost, labor cost, and the other cost is frustration. Frustration being the biggest cost. Robotics reduces that significantly. So if you are manual labor today in the trades, it's a really respectable experience. It truly is. And to see the before and the after, and to be working with a team of people and collaborating and just getting the job done, get it done. The job, I taught my kids, the job is the boss. The job's the boss. We had imported some artificial grass for our pet facility, and a contractor came out and said, they're busy, right? We had bids from 92,000 to 32,000, and and we got the 32, said, sign them up, let's go, how can we get this done? And he came out and said, you're not ready. I said, we'll be ready. We'll be ready. He goes, no, how many days will you give me? He gave me 3 days. And my boys and I, we did it. I said, the job's the boss. We have the weather on our side, we've got the equipment, and we have the material. Let's get it done. And he came out, he was actually shocked. He was like, wow, okay. He came out with his crew, and this is what they do day in and day out. And they knocked it out of the park. And I said, we weren't going to pay $92,000. That was just supply and demand, and you're going to get that kind of stuff when you're trying to get something done. Just like it's my buddy who's got he's a glazer, and they just got bought out by a private equity firm in Reno, Nevada. They got 3 shops. It's 5th generation. They just got bought out by a private equity firm. They cannot keep up with the order. Orders are 10, 12 inches thick, and they just keep coming in, and they can't keep up with the amount of work that's going on, and it's only increasing, right? So that's where I'm saying that if anybody watching this and they're trying, what should I do? You should probably, put yourself in a position where you are desperately needed and you're going to do quite well, right? And find something you enjoy doing. I found electrical maintenance. I wanted to be an electrician. I didn't have the math skills, but I took, the course was electrical maintenance, and I never looked back. And I enjoyed it so much. It allowed me to separate myself from the toxic life I used to have. And I couldn't thank my counselor, Mr. Osris, enough in 8th grade, who gave me the direction that he gave me and changed my life forever. So I hope this content, this message, changes somebody's life forever. Okay, that's what this is all about. So let's hear what Jensen Huang has to say here.
So we want to encourage tradecraft, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, steel workers, the whole span of it. We're going to need a whole bunch. And then now, above that is when we can start talking about how are these AI agents going to change the work of doctors or financial service professionals or customer care. Or in our company, just as a starting point, every single software engineer is now assisted by AI assistants. And the amount of code that we check into the company is incredible. As a result, our productivity has shot up through the roof, and we're hiring more people because it enabled us to create more things that the world desires. It increases our revenues and increases our ability to hire. And so I think that layer above really wants to engage AI as early as you can. Remember, it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's not AI that's going to, destroy your company. It's the company and the person who uses AI that's going to take your job. And so that's, something to internalize.
All right. That is something to internalize. That is for sure. I will say, I have a friend that's got some medical issues, and he goes right to AI, and he's navigating himself because I don't trust doctors. I have had so many bad experiences. I had stem cell. It was the best thing I ever did. And I had a meniscus tear, and the doctor saying, "Oh, let's go ahead and cut it out." And I said, "No, let's go to a specialist." He says, "I don't specialize." And, he didn't specialize. And I said, "Well, refer me to somebody who does." And I wanted to fix it. And I did enough research that there's 6 tears, 3 you can fix, 3 you cannot. And it was one of the 3 I couldn't fix. But the specialist says, "Mark, I'm looking at the MRI, same MRI I showed the previous doctor who wanted to cut it out." And he says, "Okay, well, there's 6 tears, 3 I can fix, 3 I cannot." It was confirming. He goes, but we don't cut them out anymore. That is old school thinking. That just puts you closer to, cartilage on cartilage, bone on bone, and then a knee replacement. And so it's one of those things where, it's important for us to get the research through AI resource tools and resources, and basically understand so that we come to the table with the knowledge and hold accountability where accountability is due. But I will tell you this, if they put a medical code to stem cell, it would disrupt a massive industry, right? It would disrupt a massive orthopedic industry. And now Tony Robbins speaks about it. He had a major shoulder injury, he had chronic back pain, and he got stem cell. And I believe he went to Panama where they took the stem cell from umbilical cord. But he's also working with AI, in regards to, tracking human health, right? And it's so advanced, and it's going to disrupt the medical industry. And we are looking at bringing in-house the accounting and the tax situation where it does all of the work, and we're not experienced in that arena, but we can do the work through AI tools and resources and then have it checked by the professionals who aren't going to do it in-house. We're going to bring it into in-house with us, and we're then going to have it evaluated. And I'm confident that pretty soon we're just going to, be comfortable enough to just do it entirely in-house at a fraction of the cost. And so that's what that, comical video content was in the beginning of this. It's just, it's real. It's real. So I just want to encourage people watching this to take it to heart. Take actions that need to be taken, especially if you're concerned about your career path and you don't feel like it's going to be sustainable. Respectable industries within the trades, it's amazing. I loved it. I really did. I do miss it in a lot of ways, but now I own my own companies and we build things out, and I don't get involved in much anymore, but once in a while, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. So with that, I hope this resonates with you. Hope you are inspired, you're encouraged to take the actions. If you found yourself in a state of being anxious and having depression and anxieties, and come on, get yourself out there, nutritionally healthy, physically healthy, socially healthy. Surround yourself, and synergistically, that's the foundation to overcome and thrive. And this is the direction that I highly recommend. And with that, I hope this message finds you well. Thank you for watching High Road to You content, and this is where you take action. Nothing happens without action. Please share your story on how you incorporated nutrition, physical and social activity, how you incorporated accountability in your life, how you didn't ignore, you didn't deny, you didn't blame, but you pivoted through a difficult challenge in your life. And how did you build that foundation to overcome and thrive? And I hope this content allows you to enjoy the journey of that, right? That would be the biggest blessing for me. Share your story, share your milestones, encourage and inspire others. And with that, I wish you well.